Okay, welcome back. I do apologize for the lateness of one of these videos. Many things have happened since I last played Ultima 5, Warriors of Destiny, but should be able to continue where I left off. So, we'll just do a quick recap before we get into it. We'll go through the map and like so. I had lost all this data previously, so I had to go through and make it all. These are all the places we've visited. There's like 3 places that aren't really listed because I don't think you really need them listed. But as you can see, we're also currently at Monarch when we started this video, and we'll end up at Empath Abbey. There are a few other places like the lighthouse south of Trinsic on the peninsula there. And then there's this hut underneath around where the sea for Cove is, and there's also the gargoyle in the big desert to the east of Britannia, near Monarch. So I'll show you where all the shrines are. That gargoyle I was talking about is south of. That's not right. Whoops. They're the dungeons. Why are they? Oh no, I messed up. Well, Covetous is supposed to be the shrine of sacrifice, and south of the shrine of sacrifice you find the gargoyle, so I do apologise for that. I hadn't realised I didn't copy it properly, but anyway. And these are all the dungeons where they actually are. Shame about that. And this is some of the information we got. I enlarged the canvas for this particular image, hence why it looks like this. But that will be fine. And the principles and virtues, which will pretty much stay the same through the remainder of the series. And the spells, there's a couple of extra spells. Only one of them I've got, and this is in this video, hence why it's not displayed recently at the moment. So let's get into it, Here where I started off around Monarch, and we started travelling around just to gather things like reagents for mixing spells and the like. Eventually, towards the end of this particular section, I realised that we only really needed 3 spells to really get through Covetous without too much drama. And the main drama is, which you'll see, because I've attempted Covetous a few times, and the gargoyles on level 2 or 3 were a right royal pain, particularly at this low of a level. Only Snape is at level 6 at the moment, so I used several spells, down spells, to get down to the Underworld, and Dispel field in order to dispel fields where we couldn't go down. I didn't worry too much about creating maps or anything for the dungeons. But I did create a whole heap of spells for usage. Still traveling around. I think I went from Monarch to various places like Moonglow, Jalom, Britain, Empath Abbey, the Lyceum. I tried to get to New Magentia, but I don't think that happened. I did a fair bit. Because it's sped up, this section takes about 6 minutes. Now, this is the bit I was talking about. The gargoyles, and it's only 2 gargoyles, but with magic and stuff. In the future, we can get around that. Because an item that we get in this video will make it a lot easier. I'm just experimenting, traveling around Covetous and see how far down I can get before not being able to go any further, and it looked like it was only about level 4. That's the gargoyle I was talking about, south of the Shrine of Sacrifice. I'll just have to turn the microphone volume down a bit, just so it's not clipping, hopefully. Moonglow there. Well, not there, that's the Lyceum, I think. And this whole clip is about 3 hours worth of gameplay. This whole video, I should say. I did spend a lot of time just traveling around gathering reagents. Because you have to travel around in order to get all the reagents that you need for all the various spells. And when you create 99 of a particular spell, yeah, you tend to run through reagents quickly because you can only hold 9 of each of them. I think there's like 8 of them, and yeah, 2 of them are very expensive, but I did try to collect them myself, but that turned into too much of a chore, I think, so I decided not to. This section of this video takes about 2 hours. But what I can say is I got very lucky at the end of this video. So again, still traveling around. Because it's been a while since I played, I needed some time to get my bearings and my skills back towards the game. Trying to remember everything again. Yeah, this is me trying to find Nightshade, I think it is, which is in the center of Spiritwood, whereas Mandrake is just on that swampy patch south of Minoc. And I even went to Trinsic to try and find more reagents. It wasn't easy, and I spent a lot of money. Like, this is one of the places where you can buy Nightshade and Mandrake, so even though it's very costly, as you can see. Okay, we traveled to this hut, which is on the east coast of Britain. So you just use a ship or the carpet that I used, and go start from Lord British Castle and go from there to the east, following the coast around. Then you find Grendel. You find out she's an alchemist, and this is where we learn the new spell, or one of the new spells. I know that's a lot of runic language, but we don't need to know all that, because we get a lesser version of it. But as you can see, it's an enchantment that turns your enemies into rats. So this is where we learn the lesser version, which I will go through it with you at the end. But you only need to type in R, X, and B for the thing. So you need spider silk, mandrake, sulphurous ash, and nightshade. So I thought I'd just check a few things, but I don't think there's anything here of any real worth. The magic carpet's certainly handy for getting around, and here we speed things back up again, just a little bit faster than what it was before. Went to Covetous, finding more reagents again, but this section doesn't last as long. So here we are in Covetous again, and I'll put playback 1-to-1 again, assuming that we'll get moving again. I must have gotten distracted by something. Might have even been making a cup of tea. I certainly didn't expect it to be this long, but we'll get through Covetous pretty quickly with the use of up and down spells. Dispel is the down spell. Uspor is the up spell. But as you can see, it doesn't always work. And on level 2, if you go through the main doorway, which you'll eventually see, we'll end up with the 2 gargoyles and the Reaper, I think it is. And yeah, it's a real pain in the ass trying to defeat the gargoyles, particularly when they can use magic. Did have enough reagents to create some. I couldn't create any negate magic or anything like that, so because I think it required nightshade. This may be a bit boring, but it's essential. Well, it's not really essential, it's just a battle in Covetous. But I just wanted to do this at a 1-to-1 ratio base, just so that you guys can see. I mean, you saw the gargoyles and the Reaper in the sped up version, so. But once we got through this battle, and we had a few more battles, but yeah, they were a lot easier. Slimes are always a pain in the ass because they tend to duplicate more often than not, particularly if you don't hit them in the first hit, or kill them in the first hit, I should say. And of course, for whatever reason, these magic axes don't have a great deal of accuracy, or I should say the characters don't have a great deal of accuracy. Even the archer, mainly because it's not technically a ranged weapon, but it is a weapon that does fly off once you assign a target. And again, I must have gotten distracted by something. That's the door I was talking about. You cast it down here, and you can avoid that battle. There's a few other points where there are gargoyles, but you can avoid those. It's just a matter of trial and error. Every time it fails, you just move around. Like here, you can't go down because it just fails. So you need to dispel the field. Hence why you need at least 3 spells: the upward movement, downward movement, and dispel field. Then we can make a few move forward a bit, then cast down again. Then it will succeed. A bit annoying, but same process here. Sort of. Yep. So we dispel the field, move forward a bit, and then cast down again. Actually, I think we climb down. Here we had to move around a little bit because I think level 7 is a bit bigger than the other levels. So I just had to choose a random place and cast down again, or dispel the fields and move forward, whatever. I think I eventually found a down that worked. And that's one of the downs that I found. If you don't find the right one, a spell like downward movement can help greatly just to get to the next level. Since you get plenty of torches and such, you just ignite another one. No point casting the spell ignite or light, I should say, or greater light. I mean, light will last about the same amount of time as a torch. And a great light, I think, isn't much longer, like 1.5 times longer than a torch. So you'd end up wasting reagents on that sort of thing. So if you don't have a torch, then those spells do come in handy. But yeah, we've done this game mostly without spells. One of the ghosts disappeared here, so I'm just hunting around for it. After all, if you leave a battle, you tend to lose karma. Karma is pretty important. You want to try and keep it above 90 as much as possible, which I'm sure I've stated in one of my previous Ultima 5 videos. And I finally found it down after wandering around, and now we're in UnderWorld. I sped this up because it's pretty self-explanatory. There were tentacles underneath the ground in that situation, so you can only just leave. If you get too close to the tentacles, they can do things like poison and paralyze and all that sort of stuff. But from the entrance, I went left and found 2 sort of dead ends, so I went back to the entrance and went right, and you pretty much just follow the path around until you eventually come to an opening where there's sort of mountains, a mountainous island kind of thing, which I found here, and you just sort of climb it. This is where you need the grapple. and this is where the shard is. It's just like a yellow glittering gem type thing. Well, that's how it's portrayed. I mean, it's a piece of mundane's crystal, so once I got that, it's just out in the open. There's no chest or anything, so you just pick it up and use the get command. Then I sort of got lost on my way back and ended up in Dungeon Wrong. There was a lot of gargoyles, so I tried to find another way. Couldn't quite find it, didn't want to waste too much more time, so I ended up going back to Dungeon Wrong after using the Blink spell. Blink spell is a very useful spell. Even though that dragon is strong, there was only one of them, so fairly easy to deal with. But blink spells are very handy. I got cornered by a group of mongbats, and mongbats are a real pain in the ass when they're in like a huge group like bats are. So I used the blink spell and got around them that way, and then just ran off. And here we are back at Dungeon Wrong, and this was where I just attempted to defeat the gargoyles. I think I got one or two of them. 3 of my companions got possessed. Here we are back at a 1-to-1 ratio. That's my karma, 95 karma. So obviously I got defeated. So that wasn't pleasant. I think Guano and Chamino was at level 6, so I went back to level 5. I lost 5% of the experience points for everyone, so not too happy about that, but I didn't want to mess around too much. So this is where we go and find glass shards, not glass swords, which are one-hit weapons in every sense of the term. One hit kill and one hit and the swords break. So obviously I'm just checking my equipment, see what I've got, see what I haven't got, that sort of thing. And otherwise distracted. I eventually did figure out what I was trying to do and whatnot. This is an area where I was erroneous in my thought. I thought this is where we picked up the white stone, but it wasn't. That's because the area that we will eventually go to in Ultima 4, you had to get there by balloon, and the little valley had a dungeon in it, so that's where I got confused. And this is me still trying to find the glass swords here, which they're not. I eventually figure it out. It's just a bit north of here on the other side of the Serpent Spine Mountains. I thought I remembered the location as FA, but that was erroneous. That was one of the things as well. I thought Nightshade was also located or at FA as well, but that was also erroneous. Obviously I got distracted here. This is where having housemaids can be a pain at times. But I'm still trying to find the glass shard swords here. Normally, you can only pick up one glass sword, but if you equip it to a character, it's no longer technically in your inventory. So when the game checks your inventory for the glass swords, it can't find it, so you can end up picking up another one. So you can pick up a max of 7 glass swords, but only if your character can equip it. And you'll see that 2 of my characters can't equip a glass sword, eventually, once we get there. Jeez. Yeah, I'm a bit slow. But that's because, I spent over 6 months, I think, away from the game, so I forgot a lot of things. So I was looking up a lot of my own reference materials to figure out a lot of stuff. But yeah, you got to remember, Buccaneer's Den is where we picked up the grapple. When you're at Buccaneer's Den, you can find out information about the sextant, and where you learn the stone music sheet. Stone, I can't remember what the music sheet's called, but when you learn the music on the harpsichord to get into Lord British's bedroom, that's the same place where you can get the sextant. You just got to talk to a different person. Kenneth is the one that teaches you the music, and David is the one with the sextant. We're getting closer to where the glass swords are at the moment, slowly trying to figure out their position in the world, because this is where we got the glass. We already collected the sextant in the first part of the clip, which is the lighthouse on the peninsula south of Trinsic. So. Oh dear, got some monsters again. These are sort of easy to deal with. It's gargoyles and mongbats that are the pain in the ass. Gargoyles because they can summon more gargoyles, and they possess paralyze and sleep, and poison occasionally. Mongbats just because they are strong as gargoyles, but they're a pack, so you can easily come into a pack of 15 of them. This is where I probably should have cast Repel Undead, which I did cast a few times prior to here, but it didn't really have any effect because I think you're supposed to cast it before you get into a fight, kind of thing. I sort of figured it might kill undead, but no. Again, it's just one of the many things I was erroneous about. But if you're following along with this Ultima 5 games with my videos and stuff, you can see there's a hell of a lot more in Ultima 5 than there is in any of the previous Ultima games. Which is good, but Ultima 6 is going to be even worse because Ultima 6 has a lot more dialogue, and the whole graphics and whatnot are all changed with it. This is still using an Apple II GS graphics, even though it wasn't I don't think this one was technically built on the Apple IIe or the 2GS for that matter, but yeah, I know Ultima 1, 2 and 3 were. But Ultima 6 is a massive change. But we're not worrying about that. Here I'm just trying to figure out how to climb again, I think. There we go. We found it. And there's a glass sword, as you can see. So we equip it to Snape. Then we search for another one. because it's technically no longer in our inventory, we can get another one. Then I just repeat with all the characters. It's a bit of a pain in the ass process, but it does work. It is sort of a cheat, but it's when you're programming for machines that are have limited capacities or limited capabilities, there are some conditions that you tend to forego just so you can meet the criteria for running it on a particular machine. Even though this game wasn't made specifically for the Apple IIe, I think, or I believe, it still had the essence of that format sort of thing. Like on the Apple IIe, the maximum amount of memory you can get is 4 kilobytes. So, although on the IBM PC it's 640, but yeah, I won't go into the details for that. Here we are travelling to Lord Blackthorne's castle. It's also, if you've followed my other videos, you'll know that we've got a badge, the password for the oppression, and we used 2 glass swords on the stone gargoyles because you can't really defeat them otherwise. Then when you go into that room, the door is magically locked. You can't use the spell to unlock it because it's a no magic area. So you use skull keys. Literally, you can't jimmy the lock. You've got to use the skull keys. That's the key right there. Then the crown's just sitting in the middle of the room and you just pick it up. Here we go with the Shadowlord. You yell out the Shadowlord's name, and then you toss the shard into the flame in the particular rooms. In this case, it's a shard of hatred into the flame of love. Then you got it. Then the Shadowlords become defeatable, and this is where I got really lucky. Because the Shadowlord teleported close to one of my characters. And this is where we use the Crown of Lord British, which has a negate magic spell effect on the area. So the Shadowlords can't can't cast magic. Then we use the Glass Sword to defeat them, because they are really strong still, even without magic. And there we go. We got to the end of this video. We've just got to make sure we equip a proper weapon. Then, as you can see, the icon where the crown is just underneath the status area when it goes back to the main, that indicates what you're wearing. Now, when we're at the Lord Blackthorne's castle, when we use the black badge to walk around the place, it had a little shield symbol there instead of a crown. So, and that concludes that. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and all that sort of jazz. And hopefully we'll see you on the next one. Adios, amigos.